Good evening, City of Conway. Welcome to our July Planning Commission meeting. My name is Brandon Rule. Also present here with me is Director James Walden and city staff. Again, I'd like to welcome you to our meeting tonight. We've only got 2 items on our agenda. Before we get called to order, let's have a roll call. Delencia Harvey.
Herbie, I'm here.
Thank you. Vice Chairman is here. Secretary Ray Williams.
Present.
Thank you. Rebecca Fincher.
Present.
Thank you, Rebecca. Mr. Brooks Freeman. I don't see that he's here. Mr. Drew Gaynor.
Present.
Thank you, Drew. Mr. Arthur Ingram.
I'm present.
Thank you. And Miss Letitia Sanders Jones.
Here, present.
Thank you. Mr. Brian Townsend.
Present.
And Miss Ann Tucker.
I'm here.
Great to hear from y'all this evening. Thank you. Well, we'll go ahead and let's review our minutes from the last meeting, June 15th, 2020. Commissioners, you have any questions, comments, concerns about our minutes from the last meeting?
None.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
We got a motion from Ray and a second from Delencia. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. All right, those minutes are approved. Before we jump into our public hearing, let me go through some of our fine print. The Conway Planning Commission makes recommendations to the City Council on public hearing items. Items reviewed on this agenda will be considered by the City Council as early as July 28th, 2020. Items not approved by the Planning Commission may be appealed to the City Council within 30 days of Planning Commission denial, with the exception of decisions made by the Planning Commission acting as the Board of Zoning Adjustment. If an item is appealed to the City Council, a public notice will be placed on the property and at conwayarkansas.gov. Now that we've got that out of the way, we will jump into our first public hearing item this evening. Request for modification of Sherman Heights PUD to allow a tattoo parlor for property located at 705 Club Lane. And I believe we have Ms. Skeeto here to present this item to us.
Yes, good evening. So the applicant is seeking to amend the Sherman Heights PUD. That entire area there is a PUD. They're seeking to amend the final development plan to allow a tattoo parlor as an allowed use on Lot 5, which is 705 Club Lane. This is the same building where the Tropical Smoothie Cafe and the Pizza Hut are located. The final development plan for that lot permits all by right uses allowed in the C2 zoning district. In addition, it also allows first sales, the repair and storage, household appliance fittings and sales, pet shop, a secondhand store, sewing machine shop, religious activity, medical appliance fitting and sales, office equipment sales and service, and a drive-through pharmacy, all of which are permitted by a conditional use permit in C2. It also further allows hospital services, hospital general, and a health center, which are not permitted at all in C2. So a tattoo parlor would be permitted as a conditional use in a normal C2 zoning district. And if you look at page 5 of your report, that's the original PUD plan that was approved at the time that the area was rezoned. And it's clear from that plan that the developer intended for Lot 5 to kind of serve as a transition between the more intense uses along Salem Road, like the McDonald's, transitioning through lots 1 and 5 towards the quieter uses of the residences and the offices at the interior of that development. Tattoo parlor at this location will likely generate less traffic and will operate fewer hours daily and will likely close earlier than either of the restaurants located in the same building. Given this, planning staff recommends approval of the request, but suggests the following conditions to ensure that the use respects the intent of the development. That business operation must cease daily no later than 10 p.m. All new or replacement signage, including window signage, must comply with the current sign ordinance. The use of neon tube lighting is prohibited, with the exception of one static open-close sign. No outdoor speakers or sound systems shall be allowed, and services to be offered now or added in the future are limited to professional tattoo body art, professional piercings, permanent cosmetics, require an amended conditional use permit.
Okay, thank you, Beth.
And that's what I've got. You're welcome.
We'll give anyone to speak in favor of this request initially 2 minutes to speak, and then following that, anyone else, kind of the same timeline for anybody speaking in favor or in opposition. So do we have anyone here to speak in favor of this request?
Talon Houston here.
Talon, if you will, state your address for the record.
1307 Main Street with Four Winds Incorporated.
Thank you,
And
sir.
I'd like to speak in favor. We do own the location, as Ms. Skeeto noted. We don't expect there to be an huge increase in traffic flow. The sound issue that was mentioned as well should not be an issue as far as no outdoor speakers allowed. The closing time, Mr. Lance is our potential tenant. His hours of operation, he will close by 8 o'clock. So that should not be an issue, as the restaurants around there also stay open later than that closing time. I believe that's really all I have. I'm here to answer any question, though, that anybody might have.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was my primary question, is that you're aware of those recommendations. Commissioners, y'all have any questions for Mr. Houston? All right. We have
I have one question. So what were the operational hours again? I heard that they would be closing earlier than any of the restaurants, but I didn't hear like the days of the week, start time.
Yes, ma'am. His hours are between noon and 8 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday.
Tuesday through Saturday, noon to 8?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay, thank you.
All right. If there's not any other questions, we'll ask to see if there's anyone else here to speak in favor of this request. I don't think we have any. Okay, now if we have any opposition, I believe we had one email opposition sent in.
Yes, we did receive comment from the public via email. This is from, I believe, either Mr. Todd Akey or Todd Ake. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. The letter was addressed to the council, but again, this is heard by the Planning Commission, and your action, unless it is appealed by the Planning Commission, is final. The council members, I understand there's a modification up for consideration to allow a tattoo parlor in the PUD at the corner of Salem and College. My wife and I specifically bought into the Windcrest subdivision over 20 years ago, back when this property, the future PUD, was owned by Mr. Ott. And he made assurances to the neighbors that his property, which I believe was then zoned as A1, would only be used for housing development and not for commercial interests. It is important to residents who have significantly invested in their property be allowed to see that investment grow as the zoning permitted at the time of said investments and the market allows. City Council failed the residents of Windcrest and the surrounding neighborhoods when they created the PUD originally. The city should not vote to expand any allowances within the PUD unless it can be proven that it will benefit the neighbors. I expect it would be very difficult to demonstrate the addition of a tattoo parlor will increase the property value and safety of the Windcrest neighborhood. And then respectfully submitted, Todd Akey, 3101 Windcrest Drive, Conway, Arkansas.
Very good. Thank you. Do we have anyone else online to speak in opposition of this request? Okay, seeing that we have none, we will bring it back into commission for discussion. Commissioners, what do you think?
I'll just say with the hours of operation that he is proposing, I just don't see it being an issue. I don't feel that it's going to be detrimental to the neighborhood.
I agree with Ian. I don't see anything that makes it stick out like a sore thumb to me any different than any other business operating over there. There's nothing unsavory about it to me.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a perfect opportunity for that complex and that we should move forward with approval.
Okay, well, we'd love to entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the request.
I'll second. Second.
Was that Brian or Brooks? I didn't catch who seconded that motion.
Both.
Okay.
Both of us, I believe. I don't know who got
Brian
the
was-
first.
All right, so we'll call we have a motion on the table from Arthur to approve and a second by Brian. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes unanimously. We will move on to our second item of the agenda for this evening, which is item number B, request for rezoning of 1.37 acres plus or minus located west of 1165 Bob Courtway Drive from R1 to O1. Mosquito. We have her on silent.
Beth, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Okay, so the applicant is seeking to rezone the 1.37 acres located immediately west of 1165 Bob Courtway Drive. The property is actually situated between properties located along Pamela Lane, the west, which are zoned R1, and then the Bob Courtway Drive property, which is zoned O1. This property is also bound to the south by additional O1 zoned property. The comprehensive plan indicates all of these properties are appropriate for single-family development. However, the increased commercial and office development to the east and south in recent years make this portion of Bob Courtway Drive undesirable for single-family development now. The property actually has no street frontage, and the property to the west on Pamela Lane, the R1 properties are currently developed with single-family homes. This limits further residential development of the property. It is better suited to incorporate with the O1 property that fronts Bob Courtway Drive. The applicant plans to develop the joint site with an approximately 6,500 square foot office building with room for possible future second building. The development will be subject to the development review process, and consideration of the residential properties adjacent to the west will be addressed at that time to make sure that those properties are protected and screened appropriately. Replatting will be required, and there is an existing approximately 1,800 square foot accessory building which will be removed. Planning staff recommends approval of the rezoning request as it would allow for appropriate development of the property and would likely not result in harm to the adjacent.
Okay, thank you, Beth. Do we have anyone here to speak in favor of this request?
Yeah, Mr. Rule, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, this is Rick Sowell, Sowell Architects. We're
Yes, sir.
representing, how are you?
Doing
We are
great. How are you?
representing the potential purchasers of this property, both pieces, both the one that's in question tonight, as well as the office property immediately to the east of it. Our intent here tonight is to take that snaggletooth, if you will, piece of property and incorporate it into the other O1 zoning that's in this area and kind of straighten that out. The piece that's in question actually impacts only 2 of those residential lots on Pamela. The other residential lots on Pamela already back up to the O1 zoning. And so we're just trying to straighten all of this out. Now, I think well, I'm sure that the residents on Pamela will be very pleased with what's proposed for this piece of property. The owners are proposing a very nice modern design of an office building that's going to be located right up against Bob Courtway Drive. So it will not even be close to the rear of the property. I know that some of the property owners there may have some concerns about whether or not multifamily gets built on that. The O1 zoning that we're seeking, multifamily is only a conditional use and is not a permitted use. And so I doubt that the city would ever permit any multifamily besides the property we're looking at is, I'm going to say, too small for any multifamily development. We will pull the buildings, as I say, up close to Bob Courtway Drive. There's a 6,500 square foot building that's planned for right now. We want that to face in front on Bob Courtway with some parking to the side of it and behind it. And so we'll be many, many feet away from the residential property with any kind of construction. It's a 1-story building. I think the neighborhood will be pleased with what we're proposing, and I'll be happy to answer any questions. Hopefully I've covered most everything.
Thank you, Mr. Sowell. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions for Rick?
You were saying parking on the side and as well as in the back?
Yeah, the proposal right now is to pull the building up as close to Bob Courtway as we can, and then that would mean that you would have to drive past the building to get to the back of it. So as you're driving past the building, we anticipate some parking there, and then the majority of the parking would actually be behind the building, not even all the way to the property line behind the residential, and that would be primarily employee parking.
Okay, all right, nice. Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Mr. Sowell? All right. Do we have anyone else here to speak in favor of this request? Okay, let's see if we have, I believe we have some opposition. We have one email that's come in.
Yes, we received a phone call via from Diane Henson at 11 Pamela Lane, which is behind the property. That was on 7/16/2020. Ms. Henson would like for there to be a large privacy fence installed to block the business from the residential neighborhood. She doesn't want to see the back of a business from her home. The existing neighborhood has lost its quietness over the years due to consistent development around them. She would like to ensure that her home isn't affected by any dirt work that must be done for the project. She says the subject property is in a low-lying area that will require much dirt work and is prone to flooding. In the past, she has had issues with flooding that has cost her large sums of money. She does not want any more water diverted onto her property than she already must deal with.
Thank you, Mr. Walden. And I can partly respond to those concerns. I think, it's typical protocol for the city street and drainage department to address any stormwater management issues throughout the design process. And so any kind of plans that would be designed by Mr. Sowell would be presented to the city staff for review in the various departments that might affect those developments and the neighbors there. So is there anyone else here to speak in opposition of this request? All right, commissioners, let's bring it in for discussion. Any thoughts or concerns? Further discussion? I personally think that the use is adequate, it's proper. Like Mr. Sal kind of explained, it fills in that missing piece there. It's surrounded by O2, so it appears to make sense to me and be congruent with the context.
I agree. I think it's a good use of the land there, and definitely better than a residential.
Yeah, I think it'll be an improvement for that area, really.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Ann.
I'll second.
And a second from Brooks. So we have a motion from Ann and a second from Brooks. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Sal. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
So that concludes the public hearing section of our meeting tonight. I would like to add and let the record show that Mr. Freeman was present for both votes. So both of those were unanimous with 10 votes. Is there any other discussion, commissioners? Anything I would like to talk about? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no further business, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank y'all very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks.
Thanks. See you guys.